All right, guys, Mr. Muscato with you one more time on this bottle cap. All right, tutorial, water bottle tutorial. All right, so the last thing that we're going to do is we are going to make an assembly of the bottle and the cap. All right, so we have two part files, the bottle file and the cap file. All right, and then we are going to create a special kind of file called an assembly, which basically brings those two parts together, and then we establish relationships between the two parts so that we get a virtual assembly. All right, so the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to go to New, and instead of creating a part file, we're going to create an assembly file. Right, so we're going to select assembly. Right, the subtype is design. That's fine. We can leave that as is. Use default template. Yes. All right, and then we're going to go ahead and name our file. All right, so anytime I'm dealing with an assembly file, I usually like to include the parts that I'm assembling, so bottle cap, right, and then I'll give it, something like ASSM or something like that. All right, we're going to go ahead and click OK. Go ahead and save your file right away. Okay. All right, so in terms of assembling something in virtual space, all right, basically what we do is we establish relationships between the objects. All right, so there's no gravity in virtual space. There's no, there aren't any solid. Technically, there aren't any solid surfaces in virtual space. So we can pretty much do whatever we want, right? We can have one object pass through another object, even when it's not possible in real space to do so. So what we do is we establish relationships between the different features of the one object to the other object. All right. In essence, what we are doing is we are creating constraints in on our perpendicular planes. In essence, right? So basically what we need is we need a constraint between one object and the other. In the x direction, we need a constraint between our objects in the y direction, and we need a constraint between our objects in the z direction. All right, so let's take a look at how to do that. All right, so the first thing I want to do is I want to clean up my views. So I'm going to go to views here, and I'm going to turn off the CSYS display. I'm also going to turn off the planes view. We're not matching up planes for this example. All right, so the less stuff that is in my three-dimensional view here, the better it's going to look. The easier it's going to be to manipulate. All right, we go back to the Schools tab, and the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to select the Assemble button. Basically, anytime that we need to bring a new part into our assembly, we're going to click this button. So I'll click here. All right, I'm going to go find my my bottle. I'm going to bring in my bottle first. Right, so we could bring in the cap first. All right, but I think it's always better to bring in like the base feature. All right, and then add the other things to the base feature. All right, so I'm going to bring in the water bottle first. Okay, just double click on that. It's going to kind of ask me where I want to place it. Just place it wherever you want. You can zoom in, zoom out, right? So it's kind of like stuck to my mouse right now. All right, just place it anywhere. It doesn't really matter where you place it, right? We're going to click there. All right, and then we see this like funky sphere thing, okay? If we want to rotate our object, like it's not quite placed, it came in upside down or something like that, right? Or we placed it in the wrong place or whatever, right? We can click and drag these arrows, right, and reposition our object, up, down, or sideways. We also have these curves lines, all right, this blue and this red line, all right, or these arcs, all right, and these are rotations, right? So if we brought our object in, right, and it was upside down or something like that, and we wanted a better orientation, right, I could just click on one of those arcs and then rotate the object one direction or another. Okay, so we're going to kind of just center this this feature. All right, now we want to take a look up at our dashboard up here. All right, right now it says status no constraints. Basically, um, in essence, this bottle is just kind of floating around in virtual space. We probably want to fix the bottle into a specific point in virtual space. What that point is, it doesn't really matter. All right, it's just it's going to help us in a couple of other assemblies that we will deal with down the line. All right, so it's just a good habit to get into. All right, so the first object that I'm going to bring in, I'm basically going to fix in place. All right, so what I do is I go over to my relationship type here. So I have this lightning bolt and it says automatic. All right, I'm going to click on the down arrow and I'm going to go down. I'm going to find uh, the fix option. All right, so if I mouse over it, it says fix component to current position. That's what I want to do. I'm going to click on that. You'll notice that one, the bottle turned a different color. All right, and then two, it says status fully constrained. That's good. All right, when our status is fully constrained, it means that Creo basically has enough information to hold this object in a specific spot. Okay, we're going to go ahead and green check mark that and set it. All right, save your file right away. And even though I can still rotate it and zoom in and out and all that other stuff, okay, it is fixed to a point in space, all right, or in virtual space. All right, so if you don't quite get that, don't worry about it. We'll discuss it a little bit more in class as we go along. All right, the next thing that I want to do then is I want to bring in the cap. All right, so I'm going to click on the Assemble button, and I want to select my cap file. Okay, and again, right, Creo is kind of asking me, okay, you know, where do you want to place this thing, right? I can zoom in, I can zoom out, I can drag, I can do all those things. All right, so I'm going to place this guy over here, you know, just off and away from the bottle a little bit. All right, but I want him in the same general direction. And then again, I have the same options here. All right, I can rotate this guy, I can move him around, whatever. So however you want to set him is fine. Our constraints are going to take care of everything else. All right, this is just a general primary positioning, just so it makes it a little bit easier for us to, you know, select the surfaces and the features that we want to align. All right, so once we're set here, let's think about how it is that the cap will kind of sit on the bottle. All right, in terms of not about like gravity or compression rings or anything like that. Okay, but what surfaces are going to be aligned? You know, if there was no physics involved, you know, how would we know where the cap belongs? Okay, so the first thing that we want to take a look at, all right, is the inside geometry of the cap, right? So we have this round surface, all right, of the inside of the cap, all right? Well, we're pretty sure, right, that the way that we designed it, if we have an outer, you know, an inner round surface, there's going to be a matching outer round surface on the water bottle. All right, so in essence, right, basically what's going to happen is that these two surfaces, all right, the outer round surface of the neck of the bottle is going to be in contact with the inner round surface of the cap. All right, so that'll be the first constraint. Okay. The second constraint then is we're going to establish a relationship, right, between the top flat surface of the bottle, right? So this top flat surface of the bottle here, and we're going to establish a relationship between that and the flat surface of the cap. All right, now those two surfaces are not going to be touching, but they will be in alignment with each other. Okay, there's going to be a set distance between those two. Okay, so we're going to get away with two constraints here And we'll see why in a moment. Normally we need 3 sets of perpendicular constraints, but because of our circles, we are going to get away with 2 here. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go over to the placement tab in the dashboard. Okay. Now notice that it says status no constraints. That's fine, right? We haven't established anything yet. All right, this is set to automatic. That's good. All right. Basically, as I select my features, all right, it's going to populate in here. Constraint enabled is fine. All right, leave that checked. All right, and then constraint type is automatic. So basically what this is telling me is that Creo is going to try to, based on the surfaces that I select, Creo is going to try to figure out the constraint type that I need or that I want. All right, usually Creo guesses right. Every once in a while it doesn't. All right, so we would change that if it doesn't. But for right now, we'll just leave that as automatic. Okay, so let's set the first constraint. All right. Now, it's really very important that we do this carefully, all right, and that we don't just randomly click on a surface, okay? What we want to do is we want to select the flat surface, not the round inside surface of the neck of the cap. All right, so let me say that again. We want to select the round surface on the inside of the cap. Okay, so when I kind of mouse over everything, right, I want to make sure that it is this view. All right, and please, you know, zoom in, zoom out as you see fit. All right, so I want to select that round surface on the inside of the cap. All right, so I'm going to left click there and release, and it's going to kind of highlight in green. All right, and then I want to match it up. Notice that I have this kind of like stretching dashed line, all right, that's extending away from that. All right, what I want to do then is I want to select the round outside surface of the neck of the bottle. All right, so I'm going to kind of highlight that and left click that. Okay, and a couple of things have happened. All right, number one, I get the features that I want, all right, set up here. Okay, number two, you saw the cap kind of snap into place and maybe rotate some. Okay, and it's now sitting above the bottle. Okay, all right. Maybe for some of you, all right, the cap is upside down and sitting inside the bottle. All right, so it might be like, let me zoom out here. All right, so it might be down in here somewhere, might be upside down, might be a couple of different things that may have happened. Okay, all of it is okay. All right, because we can always move, all right, our cap, all right, and rotate our cap to wherever it needs to be. Okay, all right. So let's take a look at how to position this. Right. So if our cap, you know, disappeared inside of the bottle, which happens sometimes. All right. The first thing that we're going to do is we're going to get the cap out of there. Right. So notice, right, this is obviously physically impossible. If this was in real space, right, we wouldn't be able to get that cap kind of sticking in out of the bottle the way it is. All right, not and have everything still intact. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to zoom out a little bit here. I am going to right click out in space and kind of hold it until I get this pop-up options menu. I'm going to go to where it says move component and click on that. All right, then just out in space, right, left click and release, and I'm going to be able to drag the cap out from inside of the bottle. All right, so that's, you know, kind of fixed positioning number one. All right, once I'm done dragging it, I can go ahead and left click again. Okay, and then I can go ahead and right click and go back to both collectors. All right, so that's number one. Number two, if the cap is upside down for whatever reason, we can use this flip constraint here, okay, and just rotate the object to its correct orientation. Okay. My constraint type is called coincident, which basically means touching. Okay, so, and there's no offset here. All right. So that basically takes care of our first constraint. Now, I had said before that we need 3 sets of perpendicular constraints, right? The first one is in the x direction, the next one is in the y direction, the last one is in the z direction. Now, because we're dealing with a circle, okay, so basically a round peg into a round hole, okay, we've taken care of both the x and the y direction, all right? So we've set a relationship between the cap and the bottle, all right, in both the x and the y direction, right? If I want to double check that, I can always go back to move component. If I try to drag the cap left or right, it will not move, right? So in the x direction or in the y direction, it will not move. All right, and you can also see that in our little sphere here, right, that the x and the y directions are grayed out, right? It's not available to move in the x or y direction right now, okay? It can only move up and down. So we fixed it in the x and the y direction. We have not fixed it in the z direction yet. Okay, so I'm going to go back to both collectors here, and then I'm going to add the second and last constraint here. All right, so as we said before, the second constraint, or the final constraint here, all right, is going to be the flat underside surface of the cap and the flat top surface of the bottle. All right, so I'm going to go where and click in the placement box where it says new constraint. Okay, and then I'm going to go and select those two surfaces. Again, the constraint type is automatic. That's fine. All right, constraint enabled, definitely. Right, notice that right now the status is only partially constrained. That means that we're just that. It's the Creo has some of the information that it needs. It doesn't have all of the information that it needs. All right, so I'm going to select the flat surface of the bottom of the cap of the bottle. All right, so again, I'm going to very carefully select that space, right, that surface. Click there, it highlights it in green. I'm going to zoom out, roll the entire thing over. I'm going to select the top flat surface of the bottle itself. Okay, so I select it over here by the handle. All right, make sure that you are not selecting like one of the rounds or anything like that. It's that top flat surface. All right, click on that. All right, then, okay, here is where we might have to make some changes. All right, so as you notice, the cap is way too low, right? So the cap itself, right, is touching the top of the bottle, all right, but that is too low. All right, so we have a problem here. We've basically jammed the cap down too far. All right, the constraint type is coincident. All right, so Creo guessed that we wanted a coincident constraint there. All right, and maybe it did or it did not for you. All right, in either case, if this is what you have, all right, what you're going to do is you're going to click on the down arrow, right? And what I'm going to do is I'm going to set a distance constraint type. So in other words, I don't want these two surfaces to be touching. I want them to be offset by a specific distance, right? So I'm going to select that one. All right, and now my offset value, all right, kind of opens up. All right, I know that the distance between the bottom of the cap and the offset, I believe it's 2.5. Let's just see what that looks like. Okay, yeah, that's it. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to set that offset distance to 2.5. And was that enough? No, that's not enough. 3.5. I apologize. So we're going to set that offset distance to 3.5. There we go. That looks better. Okay. So again, offset distance 3.5. Constraint type is distance. All right. Notice also that our status is fully constrained. Again, that means that Creo has enough information there to set the cap and the bottle, set a relationship between those two. Okay. What else do we have? I think that's it, right? So we're fully constrained. Our assembly looks good. All of this is looks fine. We're going to go ahead and green check mark that guy. We're going to save it. And we have, let me change views here to just the shading. All right, and we have a good assembly. All right, that is what our final assembly looks like. Okay. If you want to go ahead and change colors and stuff like that, you can go back to the original files like we discussed in class and change the files and fancy this up. But other than that, our assembly is complete. All right, and that is the end of our water bottle tutorial. All right, so thanks for listening. If you have any problems or anything, come see me. All right, and I hope you enjoyed designing this water bottle and cap and putting it all together. All right, this is Mr. Moscato signing off until the next tutorial series. Thank you.